Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
Today, Sam, we are looking at Simone.
Simone, why'd you pick that then? Well,
it was a fun little film that I watched recently. It's got an interesting topic. And also, we don't do many comedy films, so I thought it'd be fun to do.
Yes.
Al Pacino plays a down-and-out director who resorts to using a completely digital actor to finish his doomed art film. But Pacino's life spirals out of control when she becomes an overnight megastar.
All we know for sure is that she was discovered by little-known director Victor Turinsky.
This review contains spoilers. So what I found most interesting about this film was just that it got made in Hollywood. Because there's a lot of criticism about the Hollywood studio system, and I often feel that Hollywood is all about pretending they're great all the time and there's no flaws.
That was one of my first thoughts almost right at the beginning of the film, is that's weird. This is a Hollywood film that's critical about Hollywood, but is also very Hollywood in the way it's made. I don't know if that's a part of the commentary.
Yeah.
And that could be why it got some sort of middling reviews, I guess you could say, sort of average reviews.
It was very average, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 6 on IMDb and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very average film. That's what we can take away from it.
Well, but that's, I think we don't want to say average because average implies like unmemorable. I'd say it's neither unmemorable nor is it not enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's both of those things. But it's just flawed, and I think in the way it's constructed and the dialogue, I think, is quite, tropey.
Creative differences? The difference is you're not creative.
Yeah, so it takes the piss out of pretentious art directors, for one thing.
Yeah. It's the most pretentious made-up film you've ever seen, the film within the film.
Valerie, what are you running from?
From Valerie.
And it takes the piss out of dramatic actors that demand to have the sweets taken out of the bowls. It takes the piss out of stupid Hollywood studios that don't know who they're employing, as long as it makes them money.
So you did meet her?
Yeah, Lainey, what are you getting at? I'm the head of a major studio. Do you think I'm going to make a 3-picture deal with an actress I never met?
Yeah, and it also takes the piss out of mostly stupid audience members who just go along with something.
Is that her by the fountain? Between you and me, she doesn't really exist. Simone!
Simone's here? Why didn't anybody tell me?
She's here? Simone! So never a blast!
Sort of zombie public, really, isn't it? Joe Public. Everyone is a moron in this film. The detectives are morons as well.
Yeah.
Was it some kind of jamming device?
This is a bad place to talk.
Maybe he's just talking to himself.
Everyone is a moron except for the pretentious art director, who's still a little bit of a moron, actually. Come to think of it, a couple of decisions he makes are pretty stupid.
With Hank's tragic passing, his secret did die with him.
So the general plot is Al Pacino, who plays Victor Turinsky, who's an art director, a very pretentious art director that makes kind of shitty films that no one likes and no one wants to watch. And his lead actor walks out after some kind of spat about their trailer.
Played by Winona Ryder.
Am I or am I not entitled to the biggest trailer on the lot?
It's the biggest on earth.
The studios are threatening to shut him down, and he's not going to get his film made. So the only thing that he ends up resorting to is using a digital actor that's been created by this guy called Hank, who he met once.
Who immediately approaches him. He's also stupid, even though he's a genius, because he approaches him as a crazy guy, looking like a crazy guy, and says, hey, what the,
I licked skin, I licked hair, I licked every part of her. I'm gonna call security.
Yeah.
And so scares him off immediately, so everybody makes stupid decisions.
He has his eye patch, doesn't he? Because he's got a tumour in his eye from looking at the screen too much.
Yes.
It's like,
I don't know if there's any that ever happens in real life.
No, it doesn't. But I think that was probably tapping into the fear of the computers at the time.
I think that's what caused this, the eye tumor. Microwaves from the screen.
But then later on, Victor Turinsky's leaning towards the screen and a thing comes up because, remember, don't sit too close to the screen.
I remember that, yeah.
Just little gags here and there, just quite funny. And it is enjoyable.
It's a very dated film, actually. It made me a little bit nostalgic, I think, possibly for the first time, for my teenage years of the early 2000s.
Right.
Because it really made me think of that more so than a lot of other films I watched that were released in that era.
Well, what made you think of it then? What was it?
Maybe how dated it was, the references to computers. Oh, what are you doing? I'm chatting online.
Yeah.
Oh, AOL Messenger. I wanna, things like that. When Simone becomes a pop star, she's in that kind of Britney Spears style dress. Things like that.
Yeah, he's going through the different dresses, and I was like, "Oh, that one looks horrible." And he goes, "Yep, that one."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like the late 90s or early 2000s. Yeah.
The director is Niccol. Is it Andrew Niccol?
Andrew Niccol of the film. Yeah.
Who wrote Truman Show?
Yeah, he didn't direct that.
In that, you have to have a lot of the actors in it overacting because they're portraying actors, acting within a world or whatever.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked in that situation, but in this film, everybody acts like that anyway. But it's supposed to be the real world.
It's very odd, and like the first kind of 20 minutes of the film, I thought, "Oh, this film's just a shit film." I wasn't gonna watch the end of it until it kind of pans down. It said like Amalgamated Studios or something. And I was like, "Oh, is this kind of the whole thing? Is this satire?"
Yeah, it would. It's too. I think he's too intelligent a writer to sort of come up with this and have it just be just straight. Is meta the right word?
Yeah, very self-referential, looking inwards at how these films are made and what the film actually is.
Our ability to manufacture fraud now exceeds our ability to detect it.
I am the death of real.
But there is a lot of really cliched lines, Hollywood tropes.
Which again could be a commentary, but I think it's still, for me, it was a bit of a detriment.
Victor, you and I both know that I kept you on after the divorce for old time's sake.
There's too much of that. Like, there's an entire subplot where Saransky kind of gets back with his ex-wife.
Most boring subplot.
No one gives a shit about.
I feel like Mom's gonna take you back after this. Back on the lot. That's what I mean.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's just like, it didn't need to be in there, did it, really?
And everybody, like, on that side of things is really two-dimensional as well. It's really odd.
Yeah, like, why do you think that was in there? Do you think that was in there because the studio said, "Oh, it has to be in there"? I don't know.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's what's interesting about this film, is just discovering the level of what is intentionally stupid and what is actually stupid because it's an actual Hollywood film.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's what I found most interesting watching it, really. I think it took like more actors to voice Simone than it did if she was just a real person throughout the entire film. She was based on, there was one actress, but the voices were multiple different actresses that were all kind of combined together.
Okay, I didn't know that.
To kind of, because he wanted to make it, he didn't want it to be real. He wanted it to be obviously fake. So he used different people, and like, when she cries, it's obviously a crappy fake tear.
Yeah.
I like there's when she becomes a pop star, and he's like, she goes, "I love you," and then she goes to all the different locations.
I love you! LA!
Yeah, the amount of that was ridiculous. As if she was standing there like silent for like 5 seconds before saying LA.
But that is the stupidity of it, and I think that's what he was going for. He wanted to. People don't really care that she's that obviously fake. They just wanted to get behind something. I think that was the message of the film.
Yeah, and then you've got these stupid detective journalist characters. They're meant to be the clever ones who kind of key on to the idea that it's not a real person. But like you said, it's as if everybody doesn't care. It doesn't matter if she's real or not.
The mountain.
The hotel. Could they have built that hotel since yesterday?
Get in the car.
They're like these sort of conspiracy theorists, aren't they? That end up almost getting to the truth and then and believing their own lies too much that they completely miss the missed the point of what the truth really is.
What about the satellite photos? What happened?
Nothing.
Nothing from space?
Simone's created by amalgamation of different Hollywood actresses and like screen goddesses and things like that. And I felt like that was a really old school, old Hollywood look at it. It was trying to look forward, but I felt it ended up sort of looking backwards.
I did really like the gag when his ex-wife was reading off like a newspaper article.
Simone has the voice of a young Jane Fonda, the body of Sophia Loren, the grace of, Grace Kelly.
And then later on, he's like 50% Grace Kelly and stuff like that. More Madonna, put more Madonna in her. Stuff like that.
I guess that could be where a lot of the comedy is derived. It's not derived from jokes at all. It's derived from style, I guess.
Yeah, the situation, I think. Yeah.
There's a lot of references to Greta Garbo because she's so... Because obviously she's not real, so he has to say, oh, she's very reclusive. And he has to hide her existence because he doesn't want to give away this golden goose or whatever.
And it's all about having complete control over his films.
Yeah.
At one point, he just, in her voice, because he has to use his voice to talk to other people, he goes,
Always do what Mr. Taransky says. If in doubt, do it the Taransky way.
That stuff I did quite like about it was when he's just him and Simone and he's playing him, he's talking as Simone with, as a means of working things out and discussing. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it just kind of get to the heart of the ego of the director, I think.
Yeah.
So he makes a couple of films with Simone and they just get more and more successful. And they're all kind of like art films. But then he realises that she's getting too successful. And that he's not getting any of the credit. So he tries to destroy her career.
I just think all elementary schools should have a firing range. If there is a hole in the ozone layer, how come I can't see it? Immigration, God, isn't it crowded enough?
And then, of course, he fails to destroy her career.
Because they love her even more for some reason. So, and then he tries to get rid... Well, he deletes her, doesn't he, basically?
Yes. And then the stupid conspiracy theorists and the world then decide that he's actually murdered her, which as soon as he said, in fact, as soon as he's sort of contemplating it, he doesn't even say it, and I knew what he was thinking, and I knew where they were going to go with the film from there, was that that everyone's going to think that he had killed her. And then they're really hammering it down when he's dragging a suitcase into the sea with the hard drives in them. But there's a CCTV footage of him doing it, so then people think that he's murdered her.
Yeah, he couldn't just like throw them one at a time in. He had to take the whole suitcase.
Yeah.
Because he's slowly losing his mind, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's slowly going mad as he just... It's the talking to himself, which is what kind of makes him crazy, I think. Because at one point he forgets to thank himself in the film. Because he ends up becoming Simone.
She wins an award.
Yeah.
And he forgets to write in, I thank my director.
Why didn't she thank you?
She did. Did she?
No. That's another funny moment of the film. He goes, "Didn't I?" When he's looking at this cardboard cutout, which is supposed to represent Simone next to him in the Oscars or whatever.
Yeah, when he's burying her, he feels the need to put a cardboard cutout of her in the coffin.
Okay.
And then that other actor was like, "That's why it was so light then, wasn't it?" So obviously you thought it was too light for a person to be in there, but you didn't question it.
Victor!
Well, it's a mistake.
Oh, Bernard!
That's why it was so light.
The way that his ex-wife and his daughter fix the solution is to bring Simone back, and that they just decide that he's going to pretend to have a child with Simone, and that he's just going to live his life out like that forever now.
Yeah,
that's the solution, apparently.
Yeah, well, that's it's not the ending I wanted. I think I wanted a dark ending.
Yeah,
where he went to prison because people thought he murdered someone when he didn't murder anyone. That's what I wanted, I think. At that point, I feel like that's when the studio said, "No, you've got to have a happy ending of your egotistical, pretentious arsehole."
Yeah, And like the moral of the story apparently is just we're okay with fake, but you know, we don't want you to lie about it.
The mistake wasn't making something fake, Dad. We're fine with fake, as long as you don't lie about it.
But then they carry on lying about it, so there's no there's no real message there. It's just kind of peter out.
Yeah, it would have, again, another route they could have gone down was, yes, she is fake, and then people could still embrace her after that. That could bring up other ideas of digital people having a life, you know, which is another interesting concept that's touched upon by sci-fi.
It's very Star Trek.
Like, it's actually, yeah, there's a few. I'm sorry, I touched that.
Someone who can see that if a performance is genuine, doesn't matter if the actor's real or not.
But I really love the concept of this because it's something that happens all the time in just every film. All films are touched up in some degree, aren't they? Even if it's just to remove something, or a lot of actors do stunt doubles and things like that, and then they have their faces planted on them. So it's exploring that avenue of where is the artifice. And one line Simone says is that she's the death of the real, and I find all that facade and this fakeness, I find all that stuff quite interesting.
And what's real anymore? Most actors these days have digital work done to them. It's a grey area.
A big one that springs to mind is Oliver Reed when he died on the set of Gladiator, and they just CGI'd him in somehow.
But certainly when I first watched it through, and I didn't actually know about that, I didn't really notice. The only thing I noticed is that Oliver Reed sort of is quite, you know, suspiciously disappears later on in the film and is not in it when you would have thought he'd be there to the end, you know. It certainly, I think it is a topic that deserves to be talked about, even if it does only really concern the world of filmmaking this point, you know.
It's a very interesting thing to think about your image as like your property, and you can sell that, like you can sell your skill level or your time. Because there's loads of examples of... Did you see that Bob Monkhouse advert where he died of prostate cancer and then he ended up 3 years later making a prostate cancer charity advert?
Just when you thought it was safe to turn on your TV again, here I am. Gosh, 4 years already. Doesn't time fly? What killed me kills 1 man per hour in Britain. That's even more than my wife's cooking.
It's really macabre. But it's a really interesting concept because they obviously bought the rights from his estate. His wife was involved in it. So it's like, where does the ownership lie there?
With rights, it's a really complicated subject, and it is a little bit sinister. When you are an actor or whatever, you almost create another version of yourself, don't you?
Okay.
So in a way, I do think it's like licensing. It does depend, you know, like, I think actors deserve a real life, you know. But, most actors have stage names, and so they're almost creating another persona, aren't they?
Because you have to understand, Frank, none of this is real. Who I am on screen and who I really am, they're two totally different people.
But yeah, the idea of losing a part of yourself because somebody else owns it, that's quite a dangerous concept, I suppose.
It is interesting. And once someone dies, all their rights, they just lose them, basically. So they don't own any of their content once they die. So you're doing it without their permission, and I think that is what kind of troubles me a bit.
Am I far when ready?
Yeah, so what did you think of Simone, Sam?
Again, I'd say it's not unenjoyable. There is enough enjoyment to be had to watching it, and I could, I'd probably even watch it again if it was just on telly or whatever. And I do really like the idea, the concepts, but then you're kind of doomed from the beginning, I think, because it's like, this is supposed to be an actress who's just like the greatest actress ever created. So you've got to recreate the same effect that someone like Charlie Chaplin or De Niro or Monroe or someone like that would have had. But you can't recreate that. It's almost impossible. So they just show these little snippets of this character, and none of them look particularly special, when she's on screen.
Why are we here? Is that what you're asking, Jack? Why are we here? No, why? Just here.
trying to believe that facade of this idea that this is the greatest actor who ever lived. That was sort of difficult to suspend my disbelief, I guess.
Yeah. For me, though, it was less about that and more about how people reacted to her. And I often feel with the Oscars, the winner of the Best Picture is often the one that has the most drama surrounding it, not the one that is the best film. And I think that's what happened with this character, Simone. It was because she was a reclusive that people kind of gravitated towards her. And people like just to get caught up in something. They don't really stop to think a lot of the time what that thing is or whether that's actually real or not. And I think I really enjoyed that concept. It was very satirical and very self-referential of the Hollywood system.
What I'm saying is that every now and then I'm rolling my eyes. And I know I'm supposed to be rolling my eyes, but I'm rolling my eyes too much, I think.
Yeah.
It's some of the lines, you know.
Because you've still seen those lines before a million times and they're still uninteresting to you. And he doesn't make enough of a point to warrant putting them in there, I think. So, yeah, the more times I watch this film, the more I think, oh, it is a bit shit, isn't it?
How do you tread that line of making something like satirical like this? And it's like, you know, maybe if Paul Verhoeven had put a little bit more fascism into Starship Troopers, it would have gone full on propaganda instead of just satirical of propaganda.
And maybe if you put more sarcasm in Showgirls, it would have been less disturbing.
Yeah. There's a good film in Showgirls, I think, you know.
I'm erect. Why aren't you erect? Here, put some ice in them.
Just before we end, you recommended this to me, so I watched it, and there's one clip when Simone is singing "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman." 2 days later, Aretha Franklin dies.
Ah, okay.
Is there a link?
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah. This will be dated now by the time this comes out as well.
Yeah. It's going to come out in like 8 weeks. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, Barry Chuckle died around now as well.
Who else died? You know, leave comments on who else died in the interim between we filmed this.
Yeah.
People from the future.
People from the future with your nuclear waste.
All right, let's end.
Okay.
We're getting a bit tired. All right, that's it for this time on Films and That. Thanks for watching and subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.